Welcome back to RNG Small Ball. Today we are talking about the MVP race, because at this point in the season, it would be irresponsible not to. With under 2 weeks left in the regular season, this race has turned into one of the most genuinely contested award battles we've seen in years. And the reason it's interesting isn't just because the candidates are great. It's because each of them is making a fundamentally different argument for why they deserve the award. Let me set the table. Heading into the final stretch, you have four real candidates: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, and Luka Doncic. Each one has a legitimate case. Each one also has a legitimate weakness. And the voters, a group of media members who are going to make this decision, have to weigh all of it. Let's go through each candidate one by one, and then I'll give you my take on the MVP race. So to start off, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the favorite, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. He's averaging 31.6 points, 6.5 assists, and 4.4 rebounds on 55.3% shooting from the field, with a true shooting percentage of 66.4%. Those aren't just good numbers. They're historically efficient numbers for a player averaging over 31 a night. He has also led the Oklahoma City Thunder to the best record in the NBA at 62 wins and 16 losses, and he's doing it without his co-star, Jalen Williams, who has played only 31 games this season due to injury. ESPN's third and final MVP straw poll of the season had SGA at the top spot on 88 out of 100 ballots, 300 points ahead of the next candidate. This would be his second consecutive MVP, and if he wins, he becomes the 14th player in league history to win the award back-to-back. The case is clean. Best player on his team, elite efficiency, elite production. That's typically what wins MVP. Nikola Jokic is doing what Nikola Jokic always does, something no one in the history of professional basketball has done quite like this. He's averaging 27.7 points, 13 rebounds, and 10.8 assists, which means he is leading the league in both rebounds and assists, while also ranking 8th in scoring. That is an absurd, barely describable statistical profile. The problem this season has been availability. Jokic has missed significant time due to a bone bruise in his knee, which put him in serious jeopardy of falling below the 65-game minimum required for award eligibility. He has been hovering right at that threshold, and as of the final stretch, he needs to play in nearly every remaining game to qualify. His team has also slipped slightly in the standings, behind the Lakers in the West. The Nuggets are still very good, but compared to where they were earlier this season, the narrative around Denver has cooled. Jokic finished third in ESPN's latest straw poll, his first time outside the top two since December 2022, which tells you everything about how the media has shifted. Luka Doncic has mounted a legitimate late-season surge that for a moment looked like it actually might carry him past SGA. He's leading the league in scoring at 33.5 points per game, while also adding 7.7 rebounds and 8.3 assists per game. In the month of March, he went on a historic run, the first player to score 600 points in a single March since Michael Jordan in 1987. He also led the Lakers to the third seed in the West with a 50-win season, and Los Angeles went 15-2 at one point during that stretch. The complication now is injury. Doncic suffered a hamstring injury in the final days of the season, and while he reportedly needs just one more game to hit that 65-game threshold for award eligibility, his ability to actually play at a high level in those last few games is uncertain. His defensive reputation has also been used against him historically, though analysis this season acknowledged he has been more engaged on that end than in prior years. Still, with the injury timing, his window may have closed. Now, let's talk about Victor Wembanyama, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting, and where the real debate lives. A few weeks ago, Wembanyama wasn't even in the top tier of this conversation, and then he did something unusual. He made his case publicly. In a post-game interview with Jared Weiss of The Athletic, Wembanyama laid out 3 specific arguments for why he should win MVP. First, he said that defense is 50% of the game, and that it is, in his words, undervalued so far in the MVP race. Second, he pointed to the Spurs' head-to-head record against Oklahoma City. San Antonio went 4-1 against the Thunder this season, which is the team anchored by the frontrunner for MVP. And third, he argued that offensive impact is not simply points, but includes his presence, his gravity, and the way he makes the offense function more efficiently as a whole. After that interview, Wembanyama climbed to the #1 spot on the NBA.com Kia MVP ladder. That matters symbolically, even if the voters who actually cast ballots are a different audience. He then followed it up with back-to-back 41-point games, including 41 points and 16 rebounds against the Bulls, and then 41 points and 18 rebounds against the Warriors, becoming the first Spurs player in franchise history to record consecutive 40-point double-doubles. His response to criticism was, frankly, delivered on the floor. When Scott Van Pelt, a renowned American sports commentator, asked him why this award meant so much to him, Wembanyama said, "I do care deeply about it, and I think that all the greats that are in our mind, the best of all time, they have fought and grabbed everything they could grab early on in their career. If I want to make my spot among the greats, I gotta try to not miss any occasion." That quote matters. He is not just chasing hardware, he's chasing the narrative that comes with hardware. He understands that the MVP award early in a career shapes how a player is remembered. His numbers beyond the recent scoring explosions tell a real story. He's averaging 24.7 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, leading the league in rejections. The Spurs are second in the NBA in defensive efficiency, giving up just 110 points per 100 possessions. His on-off swing, the team's performance with him on the floor versus off of it, is reportedly around 16.8 points per 100 possessions better when he plays, a number that rivals peak LeBron James. San Antonio has 59 wins. They entered this season with relatively modest expectations. That rise is largely attributable to Wembanyama. Now, here's where I give you my honest take on his candidacy. Wembanyama's case is real, and it is more compelling than the people dismissing it are willing to admit. The defense argument is legitimate. He anchors the best defensive unit in the league while playing under 30 minutes a night. His presence alone restructures how opponents attack the basket. The head-to-head argument against OKC is a real piece of evidence. Going 4-1 against the best team in the NBA is not a coincidence, and the offensive impact argument, while harder to quantify, shows up in the advanced metrics. But there are structural problems with his case that I can't fully argue away. First, minutes. Wembanyama is averaging 29.2 minutes a game. No MVP in league history has won the award while averaging fewer than 30 minutes per night. Giannis Antetokounmpo won in 2020, averaging 30.4 minutes, which was the previous low. That is not a knock on Wembanyama. The Spurs have managed him carefully, but it is a historical anomaly that some voters will hold against him. Second, the points. Wembanyama is averaging the fewest points of any top candidate. Analyst Nick Wright made the argument publicly that Wembanyama is not a top 10 offensive player in the league. And while that framing is reductive, the underlying point has some validity. His primary methods of scoring, cuts, putbacks, transition, are opportunistic rather than load-bearing. He is not the engine of the offense in the same way SGA or Jokic are. Udonis Haslem's criticism that he averages only 24 was blunt and probably too reductive, but it resonated with traditional voters. Third, and most practically, the 65-game threshold. Wembanyama needs to play in 6 of the Spurs' last 8 games to qualify for awards. Given that they are managing him on minutes already, there is some risk here. If he falls short of 65, the entire conversation becomes moot. My bottom line is this. SGA is still the correct pick for MVP, and I think he wins it. His combination of scoring volume, efficiency, and team success on the best record in the NBA is the cleanest argument in the race. And the voters are going to reward consistency over a 9-month season. You do not ignore a 62-16 record. You do not ignore 31.6 points on 55% shooting. And the media straw polls, which historically track pretty closely with the actual vote, show him comfortably ahead. But Wembanyama has done something important this month. He has shifted the conversation about what MVP should mean. His public campaign, which was unusual by the way, very few players lobbied that directly for the award, was not desperation. It was a philosophical argument. He was asking voters to rethink how they weigh the two sides of the basketball. And whether he wins this year or not, that argument is going to carry over into future seasons, when he has the scoring numbers to support it. If Wembanyama gets to 30 points per game next year while playing this kind of defense, with this kind of team success, on this kind of trajectory, conversation is going to be very different. Because you are going to have to explain why you are not voting for the most dominant two-way player in the sport. For now, I think SGA wins a second MVP. And I think Wembanyama wins Defensive Player of the Year in a walk, potentially unanimously. Both of those outcomes would be correct. There you have it. That is the MVP race this season. As always, thank you for listening to RNG Small Ball. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.